And thank you for joining the meeting. We're going to be talking today about online shop fronts. And before I introduce my two colleagues who will be talking about their specific experience with those shop fronts, I just wanted to give a little bit of background to this whole process of going online. As all of us know, the mainstream food systems have been broken for many years. The global food systems don't work, mainly, in my opinion, due to power imbalances in the food system, with the farmers and the growers, the people who produce the food, not being paid appropriately for the work and the commitment that they make to produce our food, and with the eaters and the buyers not having enough choice in terms of how that food gets to them. And those power imbalances result in a food system that is inherently unstable, in my opinion. And of course, up until recently, most of that instability and most of that power imbalance has not been visible to the general public. And then COVID came along, and suddenly it was very, very obvious that the food systems were insecure. There were farmers and growers particularly growers who had produce in their fields that was ready to be harvested and had to be harvested. It was destined for the hospitality businesses. And suddenly the cafes and restaurants were closed, and there was nowhere for that produce to go. And at the same time, supermarket shelves were empty, and there were people who were desperate for food. So what we saw during COVID was a rapid and very quick reshuffle of the food systems across the world. Apologies for my phone in the background, that will go away. And then, so as I say, a very quick reshuffle of food systems. We saw with the Open Food Network an 850% increase in the number of shoppers using online shop fronts in the UK. 850% increase over 7 weeks. It went up 8.5-fold. Because people suddenly needed to buy online, and the farmers and the growers needed a way to get that produce to the people who were going to eat it. And that the peak of the interest in online systems has dropped off post lockdown, but it is still about 6 or 7 times bigger than it was back in February. So what we're going to be exploring in this session is how food enterprises go online, what their experience is of going online, how it practically works for them. We will be taking questions, so I'm going to introduce my colleagues in a moment. Leanne from Woodlea, who is a small holding that during lockdown had to set up an online presence, and Rosie from Bowhouse Link, which is what we call a food hub, bringing together multiple producers and offering their produce on a single online shop front, and then consolidating that produce and distributing it through pickup points. And these are examples of, they're 2 examples of the very many different varied ways that people have gone online, either as a response to COVID, or there are many online systems that have been running pre-COVID. The food hub that I helped to run in Gloucestershire has been running for 14 years now, and is a cooperative of about 85 different local food producers who collectively set up this co-op to have an online shop front and to distribute local food to local people. There are also online farmers markets across the UK using the Open Food Network to have an online addition to their traditional farmers market, so people can order online as well as going to the farmers market to collect. And then there's a pickup point at the farmers market, and some of the farmers market stall holders who are going back with empty vans and trucks will then put the pre-ordered produce in their trucks, take it back to the farms, and those farms are then pickup points for their local area. So it extends the geographical reach of the market and reduces the carbon footprint of all the people coming into the market. There's also people on the Open Food Network running food co-ops, buying from wholesalers, bulk sacks of pasta and rice and so on, and then splitting that and distributing it amongst their local buying group. There's food banks distributing surplus food, and supermarket donations to people in food poverty. And the Open Food Network then links together all of these different operations and enables the shoppers and the buyers to have multiple ways of accessing the whole range of different producers across the platform. So we'll talk a bit more about the Open Food Network later, but I'm going to hand over to Leanne, who's going to talk a little bit about how Woodlea went online and her experience of using the Open Food Network. So over to you, Leanne.
Hi, thanks, Nick. Hello, everyone from Fife in Scotland. My name is Leanne Cumming, and as Nick says, I'm from Woodlea Stables Bakery. Thanks to Nick for asking us to share our Open Food Network experience as a small producer. I'll begin with a short description of who and what Woodlea is before going on to outline how we use the platform and the challenges we've experienced going online. I'll also briefly highlight some of the issues of food resilience we had at Woodlea, as it might be useful to the discussion. So first of all, who are we? Woodlea Stables is a 5-acre agricultural smallholding situated near a former mining village here in Fife. If you don't know Scotland, we're just across the River Forth from Edinburgh. Woodlea has flocks of some 400 free-ranging hens and has been owned by Fiona Fraser and Jock Sharp for over 10 years now. 7 years ago, they established a real bred artisan bakery within one of the former barns, and that's when a hobby became a passion for them both. Their commitment to handmade, long fermented bread has brought with it major developments in their production and in the stables themselves, but all the time keeping the sense of its former life. So we are still referred to by many customers as the farm or the place with the chickens. So this strong sense of place provides customers with a unique experience. You know, they talk of coming to Woodlea or the farm as an important part of their weekend routine. From the early days of just the two of them, Jock and Fiona would respond to a bell when any customers drove up to the bakery. They now employ a team of 9 people, that's in production, sales and hen care, and we produce between 800 to 1,000 loaves of bread and 600 scones every weekend. The team's gone on to win a number of awards in the Scottish Bread Championships at the Royal Highland Show, and we are very strong advocates of Sustain the Real Bread campaign. As we all know, food, whether that's its production or its sharing, is about values, and so although we have experienced a successful transition to using an online sales platform, it has challenged many aspects of the way we have operated and interacted with our customers over the last 7 years. These values, our business, the unique experience, it all came under threat, obviously, along with many other businesses when the coronavirus struck and there was the national lockdown earlier this year. We were very fortunate because we already knew about Open Food Network from a previous food project in Fife, although we had never operated on OFN. But we were therefore able to establish our online shop on the platform very, very quickly with a great support online and on the telephone. So our transition then, we continue to operate the physical shop, which I'll call that, versus the online, the physical shop for 2 weeks, and that was in the second half of March, alongside our trial of the online shop, as we wanted to make sure we reached as many of our customers as possible about the significant planned change. I mean, we realised not everyone was active online. Communication was and remains key. We handed out notices with information over the 2 weeks about how the online shop would operate, as well as using our Facebook page and website. We have an approximate 5,000 Facebook community. I'll carry on, I don't know what that was there, but At the end of March, then we took the decision to close our physical shop, obviously for the safety of ourselves and customers, and we moved to sell through Open Food Network only. This allowed us to carry on producing, to offer our customers the bread they love, and to offer the customers the opportunity to continue to support us. Importantly too was that we could still offer the eggs from our hens, as there's not a furlough scheme for them. We were so lucky, as we did not have to close or stop producing even for one day. You know, we've been lucky, and we know that we've been lucky. As the lockdown continued, we were processing an amazing 150 orders each day. So there were some challenges for us, and I'll begin with a few practical ones. The first was finding enough space for those 150 orders, and laying them out alphabetically. We are lucky to have plenty of space at Woodlea, and we also have a builder of 40 years in Jock. So we're able to constantly and creatively adapt the space that we have to make it accessible and safe. So in fact, our original shop has become our collection point now. As I mentioned, Woodlea is a special place to many people. So it was important that our customers would still feel able to travel during the non-essential travel restrictions. So we established a safe system of free collection of orders from 10 AM to 6 PM on our operating days, which is Fridays to Sundays. And we try to be as flexible as possible for customers, and we continue to offer that. During the nationwide lockdown, it was important that we were giving people the opportunity to buy online, still collect from Woodlea, but with contactless access. But I have to say that was very difficult for us and our customers, missing the personal contact. We also offered a free delivery service to customers who were self-isolating or shielding. So they would order online and then put a note on their order to say that they would like a delivery. Another significant practical change was to our opening times. We used to open at 8:30 AM, but we moved to the later time of 10 AM to give us time to pack the products that were made early in the morning, and then pack up and display the orders for collection. This has meant investing in extra packaging, labelling. However, I have to say the system provides you with all the information you need. We get a handy packing report every day with a handy items total for each order. Nevertheless, we do still make mistakes, often packing one pack of scones instead of two into orders. So we're always still learning. So about the system itself and how we experience that. First of all, putting products on the shop is relatively simple. We uploaded images of our products, added a description, ingredients, cost, and it does continue to be easy to manage as we've extended our bread range again. The big challenge for me is the production numbers, I have to say. Before, we're a small producer, but so we produce before what we wanted or what we could within our set bakery schedule. We knew numbers, of course, but there were never any consequences to any mishaps or accidents in the bakery, and we offered what we baked in our shop face to face. Now we need to know what will be produced in advance in order to manage stock lines and numbers online. So the online shop is opened 1 to 2 days in advance so that we know what has sold. But this still means we're selling bread and scones before they've even been baked. So this did cause some early apprehension. We are now managing stock for online and a face-to-face shop again, which is a greater challenge, I have to say. Sales staff roles have changed, obviously, to manage the online additional online activity of putting stock on the shop, monitoring sales, producing reports, packing reports and labelling. Our routines have changed too, as the sales team is actually the packing department first thing in the morning as we pack and prepare online orders. There has always been a high demand for our products. As I say, we're a small batch bakery, but we realised the extra demand during lockdown would mean we would have to limit orders so that everyone could get some supplies. So just a small complaint, Nick, is that the platform doesn't permit us to limit quantities purchased. But instead of that, we put a note on our shop front to suggest a limit to customers, particularly during the lockdown, to ensure everyone would get some bread and eggs. And our trust was overwhelmingly well placed, I have to say. So other challenges for us are around food resilience, which is the underlying theme of today's talk. So despite the crucial lifeline going online provided, we still experience some fundamental shortages of ingredients for our main products, which could have seriously impacted on our ability to keep operating. One of the most widespread shortages which seemed to grip the nation during lockdown, after toilet rolls of course, was flour. We do use a national flour supplier, but we have increasingly moved to use flour produced by small local mills. That's for greater quality and sustainability. So we had to make several emergency trips to East Lothian to collect flour from Angus and his team at Mungo's Wells, who were extremely busy with obviously increased demand. And that was for our own supply as well as to supply customers. We continue to increase our use of Mungo's Wells flour. We're currently adapting some of our recipes because we obviously fear what further challenges lie ahead with, for example, climate change, the virus as it continues, and of course Brexit. It was also completely impossible to source yoghurt, a key ingredient for our scones. The closure of much of the hospitality sector, as you mentioned, Nick, meant that demand totally vanished. So wholesalers ceased to stock yoghurt. Fortunately, we could still get plenty of milk, so Fiona made litres of her own yoghurt so that we could continue to follow our scone recipe. We also experienced a shortage of paper egg boxes. That continues, so we've had to source other recyclable products. So our reflections on our experience over the last 6 months. The virus may have created or encouraged some positive changes to our food chain, and I'd like to share some views that have been expressed by our customers, as I think they might be helpful. It has encouraged people to think about where they live, what is in their community, including food producers or suppliers. And while many of our original customers saw the online sales platform as a way to be able to support a favourite local producer, our new customers have also reflected that it's good to buy food from a local, more sustainable source. So there is some good news, I think, for the future. We've always opened only 3 days, that's Fridays to Sundays, so the small batches of our products have always experienced very high demand. A large number of our long-term customers commented that we should have gone online years ago, as they often had to endure queuing, awaiting our opening at 8:30 AM to secure our precious eggs, as demand is nearly always greater than supply. So one customer left the following comment: "I'm loving the new ordering system, much easier for me than trying to get to you in time for eggs." So this suggests there is a special value to small supply or batch production, and that online selling suits such a food enterprise. There have been challenges for us as a staff team relating to the culture that has existed at Woodlea since the beginning. We like to share our experiences of making our bread with customers and hear their thoughts on it. also their own experience of going on a sourdough journey. This sometimes means sharing loaves with friends or customers as we continue to experiment with recipes and flours. So this has been more difficult for us to do, as we now have to manage stock and products more tightly when meeting the demands of our online shop and customers. We've also always loved having a chat about the bread with customers before they decide which one to buy. So this communication is now done a lot online now too, with regular Facebook posts from Fiona about what's going on in the bakery. Back to how the customers have interacted with the online shop and the new routine. During the national lockdown, customers were very willing to engage with the online shop and getting used to a new routine. Most setting an alarm for when the online shop opens, which they still do, they tell us, so that they can restock on bread and eggs and scones for their weekend before stock sells out. But as the movement restrictions were relaxed, some customers have become less motivated to follow this routine, as they wanted to have flexibility again. And when they order, some wanted to be able to drop by the stables again, buy what they can, completely in the full knowledge that they may not get their first choice of bread, as it may be sold out. So this has been a very interesting observation for us, and of course at the moment they can do both. They can secure eggs, their favourite bread, their favourite scones online, and then pick up any extras from our outside market stall when they pop in to collect their order. Over the last month or so, interestingly, sales from online and face-to-face sales at our market stall have begun to converge. However, that trend slowed last week as the number of online sales increased by 30%. Now, this could mean customers are being alerted again to long-term food security or resilience following the reintroduction of some restrictions and localised lockdowns across the country. But I would like to finish now with the voices of some of our lovely customers. So this represents just a few of the hundreds of comments and messages we received from customers during the nationwide lockdown, and I think best reflect our overall experience of moving online with Open Food Network. Thank you for being so proactive and working out such a brilliant system to keep us supplied with the best bread and scones. You guys have been absolutely amazing all through lockdown. The setup is safe and secure, and the produce is wonderful as always. Can't wait to pick up our order tomorrow. Thanks for the great service. Stay safe and well. Your online facility has been a great boon these past months, and we intend to carry on using this great service and enjoying your lovely produce. So that's all I have to say, but obviously I welcome questions, but thank you very much so far for your attention. Nick.
Thank you so much, Leanne. That was fantastic. And there are a couple of questions in the chat there. And if people do have questions, you're welcome to either type them in the chat or Leanne can take them voice to voice. But before we take the questions, I just wanted to pick up on your suggestion there, Leanne, about limiting the number of orders. This was something that came up a lot with shop fronts across the UK, that particularly in the early stages of lockdown, there's a lot of panic buying going on and people ordering way too much of produce and shops having to sell out, producers selling out. And this was a problem we hadn't come across before. We have got systems within the Open Food Network to set a minimum order, so people can, if necessary, you can set up a shop front where you say you won't take an order for less than a certain amount. But we hadn't come across this before, so this was one of the many challenges for for us centrally in the Open Food Network, how to deal with this, along with social distancing. So we also introduced during lockdown some new software that allows us to have pickup points where the shoppers are given a time slot. They come to pickup points with a sequence so that they don't all come at the same time, and that allows social distancing. We are still working on the maximum order. So if we do end up with another situation where people are panic buying, where you can actually set a maximum so that people don't over order. But in the meantime, what we've been doing is encouraging the people who are managing the shop fronts to watch the orders as they come in. You get an email notification every time a new order comes in, and you can scan those. And if you see an order that comes in for 30 loaves of bread or whatever, you can actually contact that person. You can reduce their order. You can actually change their order, centrally, and maybe contact them and let them know that you've reduced the quantity of their order. But yes, good point, and we are working on that, so that if and when we do end up with more panic buying, we have ways of controlling it centrally. So I'll take the first question from Peter Sanson. Peter said, how many different products do you have in your online shop? So Leanne, do you want to just take that? And I'll share my screen so that you can see the Woodlea stable shop.
There we go. Sorry, yes. Currently we have, I think it's 53 products. And so that's not all our own products, I have to say. We have continued to supply goods of other local suppliers, people that we supported previously to going online. And I know that obviously Rosie will go into more detail on this as a hub, but we put these items on as though we are the supplier. So it's things like Craigie's Farm jam, Fife natural chocolate, common coffee, and we have their agreement to put them on our shop as though we are the producer and supplier. So hence the reason it's as much as 53. We simply add to our loaves, and as I say, we have something like 10 varieties of bread currently, about the same in terms of scones and eggs, but the other things are additions, I guess, to bread, to have along with bread, which is jams, honeys, and coffee mainly.
Great, thank you, Leanne. Do we have any more questions from anybody? Oh yeah, there's another question in the chat there, I beg your pardon. Do you hold stock of the products that you sell for others?
Yeah, so yeah, just to say that again, Rosie might go into that. What you can do if you that you stock another supplier's products, then as you sell online, you can raise an invoice to that supplier, whereas we simply purchase stock from the supplier and put some online, but then we also have some on our face-to-face shop, because we are running the two systems at the minute.
Thank you, Leanne. And then there's a question from Stephen. I'm sorry, Stephen, can you turn off your mute and just talk us through this question about grain and grain networks? I'm not sure I understand it completely from the comment.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Yeah, it's because Leanne mentioned Mungo Wells and their mill, and I know that there is an issue with grains. When you transport grain, the infrastructure in the market is for massive, and when you go to smaller, the cost per unit shoots up. And I'm wondering how not just with grains, but with any foodstuffs, where we can liaise with each other across the region, across the country, in order to help each other when it comes to small and medium scale. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that is one of the things we're trying to do with the Open Food Network is to bring people together and to consolidate so that people can collectively offer produce that, even if they're a small scale producer, they can collaborate and cooperate with other producers so that they can collectively meet a larger contract.
Can I just follow that up, Nick? It's Stephen Jacobs, Organic Farmers and Growers. I'd be very happy to liaise with people and through yourself, as I've said to you before, if there's ways that we can help, I work with the UK Grain Lab, with the Welsh Grain Forum and others.
Yes.
But it's not just grain, it's ideally the whole of the farm rotation. But to get, as I say, from big to anything below big, it comes with, as Leanne has just eloquently said, it comes with pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to explore that more, Stephen. I'm very happy to have that conversation. And I think what COVID has brought into stark reality is that we do need a better food system. And my belief is that lots of small-scale growers and small-scale farmers is a more resilient system than a small number of large producers. So really happy to discuss that. Another question from Josie. How do the commercials work out for you? The percentage of sales going to the Open Food Network versus the cost of direct sales. So yes, does it significantly affect your profits? So again, I think that's a question following up for you, Leanne, in terms of what you pay to the Open Food Network and how does that affect your profit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can't say too much. I'm not the owner of Woodlea, but what I can say is that, you know, we made the decision, to start at the beginning, there are obviously costs to be online with Open Food Network, as there would be with any kind of platform. And we made the decision not to pass those extra costs on to our customers. So obviously it is costing us more to sell online because we have the costs, the banking costs online, the cost to support Open Food Network. We then have all the extra packaging costs. So we are absorbing them at the minute, and that's a choice that we're making because of the situation that we're in. And that everyone is in, so we feel that we haven't wanted to pass that on. So obviously, yes, it will be affecting our profit margins comparatively to our face-to-face direct sales. But as I say, that's been a conscious decision that we've made.
And just to follow up on Leanne's point there, the Open Food Network asks people to make a contribution to running costs. It is a not-for-profit open source system that is collectively owned by the people who run it. And we don't exclude anybody from using the Open Food Network on the basis of cost. So people can and do use the Open Food Network for as little as £1 per month as a nominal contribution to running costs. They get a limited amount of online, they get full online support for that, but they don't get any in-person support. But they do have access to the software for £1 per month as a minimum donation. But most of the people who are using the Open Food Network pay a percentage of their turnover as a contribution, which for small operations starts off as 2.4% of their online turnover. So at the end of each month, they get an invoice for 2.4% of what they've sold online through the Open Food Network the previous month. And then once they get into a bigger turnover bracket, they start to pay a smaller contribution. They pay £50 per month plus 0.5% of turnover. So yes, there is a cost to using the Open Food Network. And many of, Leanne was saying that Woodlea don't make, they absorb that cost. Many of the people using the Open Food Network just add a markup. They just add a small percentage to the cost of online sales, and that extra income pays for the cost of the software. And then there's some more questions. There's one about panic buying from existing clients. It's not just panic buying from existing clients, but people who haven't previously been customers, people who were using supermarkets suddenly coming in and buying all the produce that then excludes the faithful buyers. There is a way within the Open Food Network of setting up your shopfront to be open only to certain customers. So you can have a registered customers only shopfront, which means that only certain customers can get in there. The other thing you can do, which was used primarily for vulnerable customers, particularly during lockdown, was that you can open a shopfront and make it visible only to a certain range of customers. So that could be just your faithful traditional customers, or it could be to people who are self-isolating, and they get the first access to that shopfront, and then it goes public after a couple of days, priority shopping to other shoppers. So there's ways of customizing the shop front so that different people see different things when they go online. And then there's a question about collaboration. Do we know of any farmer producer cooperatives that have been set up by producers for collaborating using OFN? Yes, that is very much what Rosie's just about to talk about, and that's probably a really good lead into talking about food hubs. Open Food Network is designed so that you can pretty much do what you like with it, and several of the people who are running shop fronts on the Open Food Network are cooperatives of producers who've collectively come together, and they've created a single shop front that's got products from multiple producers. I just want to do a time check before Rosie does her slot. Rachel, we're running through to 3:30, is that right, with this session?
I think it was 3 o'clock.
Is it 3 o'clock? Okay.
Yes,
okay. In that case, any other questions? Maybe I could wait until after Rosie's slot, because I'm aware we're 10 past, so yes, we are getting into our time. So I'm going to introduce Rosie Jack from Bowhouse Link, who's going to talk a little bit about food hubs, and then there'll be a chance for more questions after that. Over to you, Rosie. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today, and thanks again, Nick, for asking me to be part of this. So for those of you who don't know what Bowhouse is in the East Neuk of Fife, again Fife, and we are a converted farmsteading that's home to over 7 different food and drink businesses. We're most publicly known for our market weekends that we host, which welcome lots of different traders from across Scotland to join us in Bowhouse in our main hall, and they pitch up with all their amazing produce and sell their products to the trade, the customers that are coming in the door. And our Bowhouse producers that live there permanently also have the chance to sell their products to these customers. So these events that we used to host, or we still do host, before COVID, we would see up to 5,000 people over 2 days coming to these events and enjoying local produce. Bowhouse's mission is really just to support local small growers, producers, farmers and creators in the food and drink industry. We're based on the Balkaski estate, which owns Bowhouse. So we work really closely with the estate. We are mainly organic, with lamb and beef production, as well as multi-cereals as well. So the different businesses we have at Bowhouse, they play a really key part to every decision we make at Bowhouse. We have East Neuk Market Garden, which is a veg plot market garden. We have Keeping the Plot, which is a fresh cut flower business. We've got Butchery at Bowhouse, which is a butchery. We've got Grain and Sustain, which is a refill sustainable shop. We've got Scotland the Bread, which is a flour mill, which I know that Woodlea sometimes use as well. And we've got a gym, which is a bit random, and we also have a brewing and distilling unit as well. So all these different businesses really play a key role in what happens at Bowhouse. We all work together. It's a real collaborative space. So back whenever it was, March, we had our first market of 2020. It was all going to be singing and dancing. We were meant to have workshops and cooking demonstrations and lots of different classes, which is all what the market weekends host. We had 40 traders in our main hall. We had 4 street food vans. It was all going hunky-dory. And then obviously COVID struck. So we had to obviously postpone many of our events, which is something we were absolutely happy to do. But then we saw lots of our different producers and traders who come to our events had no trade. They had nothing. They had no way of getting their produce to the consumers. And that's what we saw the main problem. So we felt, as the middleman, as the kind of the gopher in the middle, we had to do something. And that's where we kind of really quickly changed what we were doing from events and really looked at, how can we get in touch with our customers who are right there, but we can't see them, they can't come to Bowhouse, but how do we get in touch with them? So there's lots of different other food hubs as well online. We did research with the Great British Food Hub, with Neighbour Food, which you might have heard of before, but really for us, we decided that OFN was the way to go, because really their online support was incredible. They could help us, very quickly with any sort of issues we had. They're open source, so everyone was helping each other with different questions. There's a WhatsApp group, so if you're stuck really suddenly, you can just say, hey guys, I'm stuck with this, there's an error, who can help me? And people get back really quickly. So we went with OFN, and I have to say it's been brilliant. And as the middleman, it's a little bit of getting in touch with producers and OFM and trying to make sure everything's working in between. Obviously, because we've got an archive of traders who trust us, who know us, they've come to our events, it wasn't difficult for us to just give them a call and say, hey, look guys, we obviously can't host the events, we've had to cancel these, but we still really want to work with you. Can you sign up to Open Food Network? Tell us what stock, upload your products, tell us what stock you can give us for this market cycle, order cycle, sorry. And then we really want you to be part of it. And what we did was we just worked with a really small core group of producers to begin with, which was mainly our Bowhouse home producers, to try and make sure that they had a route to market. So we had a couple of trials, it worked really well, our customer base grew really quickly, and then we opened it up to the greater group of traders. So on our Bowhouse market books, we've got about 160 traders on our books, but obviously not all of them have joined Open Food Network because they've managed to change what they're doing to adapt in the current situation. So we have many of them on the site now. I think we've got about, I probably should have done my research, but I think we have about 40 producers on our page now, and some of them are dormant, they're not doing anything. They've said, guys, this was a really good thing for me at the beginning when I had all this glut of produce, but actually I've managed to sort out my supply chain and I don't need to be part of Bowhouse Link anymore. And hey, that's great. If they're able to supply their customers in a different way, that's brilliant. So how it works, tell me if I'm speaking too quickly as well, because you know, Fifers talk too fast. So how it works for us is that the order cycle opens on a Monday morning, first thing on a Monday morning, and we say to the traders, look, you need to have all your stock updated for the Sunday night so that I can make sure that when we open the shop front, the customers are getting the exact, they can order from the exact quantities you've got. So opens on a Monday morning, and then it runs for orders until the Wednesday at 1 p.m. So then at Wednesday at 1 p.m, the shop shuts. And then that gives my team some time to collate the orders and understand how much has been, how many orders we've had, who needs to do what. And then there's a great button on Open Food Network. You can literally press one button and it tells all the traders what stock they need to bring to Bowhouse. So that happens on Wednesday afternoon. And then that Thursday, that gives the traders time to, well, one, harvest the produce, create the produce, make the produce, get it all together. And then on Friday, we ask all of the producers to bring that produce to Bowhouse. And then my team checks it off and they say, great, you've brought all your jam, thank you, off you go. Or if it's really fresh produce, it comes in on the Saturday morning. And then on the Saturday morning, my team pitch up at Bowhouse. We have the very fortunate, you know, we're very lucky that we've got so much space. If you've been to Bowhouse, it's a giant shed, so we have so much room that we can lay out all of our orders and all of the different stock, and we've got little trolleys, and we go around and we pick all the different produce into the boxes, into the crates. We label them up, and if they're a collection order, then they sit and they've got a collection time, so the stuff's kept cold or it's in fridges. And then we've got a delivery cycle as well, so there's a delivery packing team who then pack all the delivery orders and they go in the van in that order, that they're then delivered backwards, if that makes sense. So then that happens on a Saturday morning. I mean, the first couple of weeks that we did it, it was chaos. You know, there's things that if you're setting it up, you won't think about, you won't think, oh, hang on, that's going to be an issue. It won't cross your mind. And we're still fine tuning it. And I think our first week, we managed to set this up in about three weeks. Our first week was, I think it was possibly around about the 10th of April. And we've had one since every week since then running through. So some things that have been challenging for us as a hub, obviously traders are creative people and they are really busy people too. So trying to get them to, one, make a profile, which doesn't take very long, and two, upload their products can be a challenge. So we try and take that bit of that stress away from them. We say, hey, look, we know your products quite well. You come to our market weekends. Let me do this for you. Give me permissions to all of your online profile. and we can tinker away and make sure all your products are up to date and correct. So if they trust us to do that, there's a way that the OFN lets the host take control of their page and update their products for them, so they don't need to worry. Some traders understandably want to manage all of that themselves, which is great. So they go on and they need to keep that up to date. Another challenge is that orders go out on a Wednesday and we've said to traders, okay, I need 6 bars of butter or something, but they can only provide 4. So obviously there's been something go wrong in that production from the beginning of the week to the middle of the week. What went wrong there and how can we kind of make that better? So normally what we do is in that venture, we have to unfortunately refund some people, and normally people are absolutely great about it and there's no trouble. So working with traders really closely on this sort of thing is kind of really fundamental to making sure it works. We have used the system of the tagging system. So some of our customers, at the beginning of it all, we said, if you're an NHS or a frontline worker, get in touch with us and we will create your name as a tag. So we tagged them and said, you can get priority access. So they got access to the market 2 hours before it opened to the general public, and that let them in, and then they could do the shopping and got first dibs on the produce. We also have a staff tag and a discount for staff so that our team and our estate team can shop from the produce that we are collating together. And that's worked really well. We've also been working with our local food bank because we know they've been really struggling through all of this. The East Neuk Food Bank, they are based in Anstruther, they're not too far away from us, and they've seen a real demand in all sorts of things, and people really suddenly needing lots of different help, not just food, but things, you know, for children and things like that. So what we did was, obviously they weren't getting many donations, they were getting produce from the supermarkets, but they weren't getting any cash donations anymore. And actually those cash donations are really key to their operation because it allows them to go and buy extra things that they need for giving out. So we created a product on our shop to say donate to the local food bank, and people could really easily donate to that food bank. We then collated the money, and the full 100% of that donation was then given to our local food bank. And we've seen, I think since the beginning, we had a bit of a pause because we took on a new charity, but we've helped donate, I think about £1,500. So we're really pleased to be able to help make that happen, and our customers have been incredible. So here's some fun numbers. We've got about 300 products rolling all the time. We've also, hang on, find my bit of paper. We've got 360 customers on our books. They don't order all the time. That's another thing that's really tricky, is that we're always trying to retain customers and keep things that are fresh. We've got customers that just say, I want to buy this each week, great, and they come every week. And then we've got customers that want to change it up and they're fortnightly. We've got a fortnightly crowd, a weekly crowd, and a monthly crowd. And it's trying to sort of do social media and our newsletter to try and keep them interacting, keep them shopping with us and see the benefits of it. We've seen 1,485 orders go out the door since the beginning, which I'm quite pleased. I just found that number and thought that was quite impressive for me. So it's been a real challenge. Obviously, our team is very small. It's myself and some event staff, and the Balkaski team as well is a big part of it. When we had to stop our events, having to stop doing things was a real struggle for us all, and actually being focused on one project was really nice, just to be able to have one vision and say, look, we're setting this up and here's our goal. Our goal is to feed our community, and even people that are vulnerable, we need to get food to them somehow. We're keeping this going. This is something that we're running alongside our market weekends. We've had one market weekend back, which was last month, which was really successful. Obviously extremely pinned back from what we're used to. We didn't see the footfall that we normally do, which is what we wanted. And it was really interesting to see how the traders worked with the online hub and at the market weekend. So we had, if people didn't want to come to the market weekend and collect their produce, they could do the delivery service, but they still were part of the market weekend. Or you came to the market and you pre-ordered and you got your packing list and you were explained how you walked around the market hall to collect your produce. And that worked really well as well. So running Bowhouse Link in conjunction with the market weekends has worked so far, and we hope to keep that going into the future. So it's always changing, and I was saying to Nick the other day that we actually need to sort of always be updating Open Food Network and my profile page or our profile page, because the updates happen all the time, and the Open Food Network team are always developing things, and before you know it, the whole shopfront's changed for the better, and you need to go in and be like, oh, hang on, this is a new fun button that I can do lots with. So I thought briefly what I would do is just share my page with you all, if that'd be useful, and let you see our shopfront, because it's open just now, and the produce we have. And then if it's useful, I can show you the back office, but I think maybe just the front is more useful just now. 1 second. Let me go in here. Share. Okay, can nod if you can see that? Okay, great. So this is Bowhouse Link. I'll go on our front notice page first. So how it works is that what we do in our advertising, all of our customers, they get a link and they can go straight to this page. People can search on the Open Food Network map, and they can find in their area of Fife or wherever they are in the country, and they can find their nearest hub or their nearest shop, and that's through the map service up here. But it takes you straight to the notice, and it just explains where we deliver and what we do and how it all works. And then you can click into your shop. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. So you can choose how you order products. So we have, this is the donation product I was talking about, but we can order, we can say we want meat first, we want veg first, we want our special offers first, we want, we can order it all and how we like it, and the traders have to fall into different categories when they make products. So we have a variety of different veg growers. One of them is based at Bowhouse, East Neuk Market Garden. They grow a whole selection of produce, and Bowhouse Link is really just a way for them to get rid of their glut. They've got a veg bag scheme which works wonders. So really for them, it's just about getting rid of extra produce. Has my camera gone off? That's odd. Anyway.
That was me. I think because your sound's getting a bit glitchy. I think it'll be clearer without, yeah, sorry.
So yeah, lots of veggies. And then Bowhouse, the butchery at Bowhouse, they also have their own shop front. Unfortunately, they opened their doors literally the week or the weekend of the lockdown happening. They were going to be open to the public. So Bowhouse Link and their own OFM shop became their lifeline. It was their only route to market because they didn't have a customer base. So it was really great for them to sell their produce through Bowhouse Link. So we try and have all the fresh produce at the beginning, lots of different meats, as you can see. We're obviously not a vegetarian site, sorry. All the different dairy products that we have, all of our producers are very local. We've got Wild Hearth Bakery, Barnett's Bakery, which are not far away from us either. So you get the gist. We try and have the essentials at the top of the page, rolling down Scotland bread flour, rolling down to lots of different other kind of produce which our traders update their stock onto the site. Now, how do I come out of here? Stop sharing. There we go, that was successful. So, should I put my camera back on? There we go. So that was a very sudden whirlwind of what we do. It's great fun, and if any of you are thinking about starting a hub on Open Food Network, I couldn't recommend it highly. We've really enjoyed working with them, and it's really nice to even to be speaking with you guys today and working collaboratively on it all. It's very exciting, and I really hope that everyone together can kind of really be a stronger voice and get the word out to all the benefits of shopping local, eating local, and supporting your small producers. And if we can all talk about it enough, hopefully enough people start listening. So I'm not sure what else you want me to chat about, but that was the Bowhouse whirlwind.
Fantastic. thank you, Rosie. That's brilliant. And there's already messages coming up on the Slack, on the chat, saying fantastic and marvelous and really inspiring. So it was for me too. Great to hear that. Thank you. So if you've got more questions, please do put them in the chat. There's also a little bit of time now if anybody wants to talk about how they might want to go online and how they might want to use a platform like the Open Food Network. But just while we're waiting to see if people want to come in, I just wanted to pick up on something Rosie said there about how, particularly during lockdown, when people were setting up hubs as quickly as they possibly could, there was a huge amount of learning going on, and people being, very creative about how they did things, but having to make it up as they went along. And there was an amazing sort of across the country, an amazing sort of support network that's set up of people looking after each other and helping each other get food hubs set up. In the early days of lockdown, there was no government guidance at all about how to deal with COVID and hygiene measures and so on. And so there were networks within the Open Food Network of people having webinars where they were discussing, how to do food handling, how to manage hygiene issues. People come up with recipes for hand sanitizer made out of vodka and tea tree oil and things like that. So very creative, a really creative community of people across the country supporting each other. And worth mentioning, the Open Food Network is not just a UK operation. It's the open source software was originally developed in Australia, and it's now the same code, the same software is being used in 18 different countries around the world, with another 12 countries in the process of setting up and using it. And because it's open source and because everybody is cooperating and improving the software, as Rosie said, every week there is an improvement to the software coming out. That improvements that are made in India or Canada or Australia, all those improvements improve the UK site. So because it's a global cooperative. So there's a question from Stephen. Rosie, do you charge your customers to be part of this? How do you pay for the whole system?
So we don't charge our customers to be part of it. It's free for them to shop on Bowhouse Link. We have toyed with the idea of a membership scheme just to try and make them feel like they were part of a club, and they would possibly get hidden products and things like that, but we've not done anything with that yet. So how we make profits from it is, well, we don't really make huge profits from it. It really just is washing its face. Is that how it works is Open Food Network take 2% and we take 18%. So that 18% of their sales. So when they upload the product at the price that they've set, that is how much money they get back. So the 18% or the 20% sits on top of that, and the customer pays for that 20%. So we get that 20% back of that product. So that's how it works out for us, if that answers the question.
I think it does, Rosie. And I wonder if would you mind just sharing your screen again and just going back to your shopfront and then showing people that pie chart that comes up beside the price of a product on the shopfront. One of the things the Open Food Network is very much into is transparency, and we want the shoppers to be able to know how much money a producer is getting for their product. So you can see there, Rosie is showing us these this kombucha. The producer is going to get £12.50, and then the Bowhouse markup is 20% of that. So the shopper is paying £15, and the shopper, this is the shopping page, so the shopper can click on this against every product. They can see how much goes to the producer and how much goes to the shopper.
I think it's worth saying that I think the producers liked that because they knew where they stood. They could upload the product and they could say, okay, I'm going to make that back. I know that it's not going to drop down when I get my payment through. So that was another reason why we really liked OFM and went with them in the end. Yeah.
While we're here, Rosie, and talking about transparency, I wonder if you click on the producer link underneath the product link, so that we can, this is a way that shoppers can see who has produced that product. So even though it's being sold by Bowhouse Link, if you just click on the red cross, that will get rid of the, yeah. So what Rosie clicked on there was underneath the product name was the name of the producer, and there's full detail here, as much detail as the producer wants to give about how they produce this drink and their contact details and their social media links. so the shoppers get to know the producers.
It also shows the other shops that they're part of down the bottom, so you can always change between as well, so they might be closer to you. So I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Rosie. And then there's another question from Stephen about do the traders upload what they have to sell, and how do you calibrate demand and supply?
Yes, so we ask our traders to upload their stock and their products. We have a product template that we say we need you to format it in this way so that it lists correctly. So we ask them to just sort of categorize it and then list what the product is. We try and make them, or try and ask them to do variants so that you can make a product and then it lists all the different types of products. So if it's bacon, and then it'll have streaky, smoked, unsmoked, back, rather than having hundreds of different types of bacon on the page. But then sometimes you can't have images. So it's about finding out what's right for the product. So does it, sorry, I've went off on a tangent. Yes, the traders upload their stock, and how does it work together? So they say how much stock they have. They could say, I've only got 5 or 10 of this stock, and it will tick down as the customers buy it. And when it's sold out, it doesn't appear on the site, so it's just sold out. If they make it unlimited, then obviously it's unlimited, and it can be ticking up how many orders they have, and they'll get notified at the end of the order cycle how many they've sold, if they've sold out, and how many they need to bring. Does that answer the question?
I think it does, Rosie. Yep, perfect, thank you. Are there any other questions? Anybody who's maybe asked it? Yeah, Stephen's saying thank you. So I think that answers his question. Any other questions, or is there anybody on this call who's thinking about setting up some kind of online presence, either as a producer or as a hub, who might want to speak? And while we're doing that, another question from Elizabeth: is OFN encouraging agroecological, regenerative agriculture and organic growers? Yes. The Open Food Network has a set of values, and these values have been agreed globally, but across the world, everybody who's using the Open Food Network agrees to these values. They're fairly broad values, things like transparency that we've talked about already. They have a value of subsidiarity, which means that we believe that decisions should be made at the most local level possible, and then values like regenerative agriculture. The full list of, I'll put in a moment, I'll put up the list of values as a chat in the chat box here. What we are noticing is that the people who are using the Open Food Network tend to be relatively small scale farmers and growers. There are some big operations using the Open Food Network, and as long as they fit with our values, that's fine. But it is quite a lot of small scale growers, some of them certified organic, some of them at a scale where it's not economically viable for them to certify as organic, but they are operating as good as, if not better than, organic principles. But yes, we have a lot of people using the Open Food Network who do fit with those values. And a question from, I'm not keeping up with the questions here. Can you estimate the amount of time it takes to support your producers with online sales? So I think it's a question for Rosie, probably. How much time to support producers with online sales? Maybe in relation to the number of producers, yeah.
At the beginning, obviously, it was quite new, and it did take a lot of time to kind of work through those issues with the traders, and also a lot of them really trust us. They've worked with us for years, so they wanted us to deal with them. But actually, it was great because we could just say, look, I can't answer this question, but the Open Food Network support team are fabulous, so do speak to them. And that worked out quite well. So at the beginning, I would say it could, I mean, it doesn't sound long, but it would take a week to set up a trader and say, here's all the information you need, here's what you have to do. Once you've uploaded your products, we can get you added into next week's order cycle. And because we're working on that weekly rotation and cycle, we can kind of say, look, I can get you in for this week. We've also got a timetable of our traders, and we kind of swap them in and out depending on the week. So some of them are weekly, they can choose to be on all the time. They can choose to be weekly, fortnightly, whatever works with them, and they're able to demand to what we're doing. So I would say it depends on the trader as well. So some traders are really tech savvy and it doesn't take them long to set it up. Some they just say, oh, I'll just give you full permission, you do what you need to do, but I want to be part of it. That obviously takes up a bit more of our time and a bit more admin, but we're happy to do that because that gets their produce to the consumers, really. So it depends on the customer, on the producer. Oh, too many words.
Yeah, and that's certainly our experience with our food hub as well. Some producers really self-sufficient, some need quite a bit of hand-holding. We're a bit more mercenary in our food hub than Rosie, and we have a system where we have a standard markup of 20% on the producer's price, and we mark it up by 20%. But if we have a producer that's particularly tricky, then we charge a higher markup on their products, and that gives us enough margin to pay people to do the additional work, whether that's sort of admin work of updating their stock for them, or if it means driving out to their farm to collect produce rather than then delivering to the hub. Then there are ways of adjusting the markup from one producer to another. Another question from Rachel: how do you bring food producers and traders together to create a collective hub? How would you have done it if you hadn't already had that community? So I don't know if you've got a response to that, Rosie. I mean, certainly with our food hub, it was different to Bowhouse. Bowhouse was already established. We had this idea 13, 14 years ago, and we started from scratch. And we just had one or two producers who liked the idea of a food hub, and they were willing to, support us. Well, the volumes were quite small, and then we got a few shoppers who were interested, and then slowly it grew. And it can grow organically from nothing into a food hub like that, just by word of mouth and by producers hearing that there is a food hub and wanting to start to sell through it. But I think maybe Rosie's got a different approach on this, because Bowhouse was already established with quite a wide range of producers already.
Yeah, so as I said, we already have a database of producers that we trust and that are actually approved. We have an application process for our physical markets that we need things like their food hygiene certificate, their public liability insurance, and we had all of this on file on our own system. So we were very lucky in that sense. It was really word of mouth. We put the call out to our traders and said, look guys, we need your help, you need our help, let's work together, we've got the time to do this and we want to make it happen. And a lot of them got in touch and wanted to be part of it. And then they also, we've got traders now in our books that we've never had to a physical market weekend, because they just heard about us on social media. We've got quite a big following on social media, and they heard about what we were doing and they wanted to get involved, but they maybe didn't have the confidence to come to the market weekends, or they hadn't applied to come to the market weekend, and they got in touch and they wanted to be part of Bowhouse Link. We did then ask for that sort of standard what we do for public liability insurance and their food hygiene certificate, depending on what level of their product is. So really word of mouth a little bit, and it's grown. Obviously we saw lots of traders getting involved, and it's slowed down again, but also we've also seen that now some traders have calmed down again. They're now able to just say, okay, I've cleared my feet and I want to be part of Bowhouse Link because I know that you're going to keep it going, and run it in conjunction with the market weekends. So again, it depends on the trader a little bit.
Great, thank you, Rosie. There's a note from Hannah, whose colleague has just set up an online shopfront in Cockermouth. Hannah, do you want to say a little bit more about your experience of how that has been? It would be useful maybe to hear another perspective on, and I think you're also using the Open Food Network, is that right?
I'm not using it yet. I work for the Food Farming and Countryside Commission. Yeah, so my friend Felicity, she's just set up the Cockermouth online market, which is a food hub, and that initially I think it's got maybe 4 or 5 traders on there, but she's adding more next week. So it's very much an organic word of mouth. As people are finding out about it, people seem quite keen to join. So the network isn't there already, but hopefully it will grow to be something that's really supporting particularly West Cumbrian producers. And the deliveries go to My other friend just set up a shop who does the plastic-free refills. So all the deliveries go to her shop for collection. So it's very much within those ethics and values of good for the planet, good for people and things. And then I'm just interested in OFN and how it works as a mechanism for supporting probably as more of a those food hubs I'm quite interested in. I'm coordinating the Cumbria inquiry, so we're looking at, for the Food Farming and Countryside Commission, so we're looking at how we can transition food procurement and getting local food to market to support those producers and be more accessible, basically. So I'm just, yeah, potentially interested as a mechanism for that as well.
Right. Thank you, Hannah. That's great. And then there's a question from Joseph about how to get the produce to the hubs. So you're growing veg, which is fantastic. So yes, I'm guessing that it is not viable to get your veg from Cheshire to Bowhouse. that isn't going to work. Partly because of the cost of that, and partly obviously in terms of freshness, that the aim is that, as Rosie described, that we take orders up until a specific deadline each week. We then send the purchase order out to all the growers and farmers. They then harvest to order, so the veg is as fresh as it possibly can be, and it's brought in and then immediately distributed. So particularly with fresh produce, it's really important that it's as local as possible. But Joseph, my suggestion would be to have a look at the map that Rosie pointed out to when she was doing her demo, the top of the home page, so openfoodnetwork.org.uk, there's a map link, and you'll be able to see any hubs that are operating in your area, and you would be able to set up on the Open Food Network and then give them permission to put your products on their shopfront, and then they would sell their produce. They would take the orders, they would take the money, they would send you a weekly purchase order, and then you would harvest to that order and then deliver it to that hub. And there's an option, if you wanted to set up your own shopfront and do exactly what Leanne has done when she described the Woodlea shopfront, which is that you register on the Open Food Network and then you sell direct to the public. So you have your own online shopfront that will take orders and payments from the shoppers, and then they will either pick up from the farm, or you can set up pickup points, or you can set up home deliveries. And you can do both of those things. You can have your own shopfront selling direct, and you can sell through any hubs or any other shopfronts that are on the Open Food Network. So if that isn't clear, please do contact me maybe after this, and we can do a screen share, and I can talk you through all of those options. Great. So people.
One last thing I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, Nick.
No.
Was that when, just to go back to that question about recruiting traders and things like that, obviously you'll be able to explain the benefits of why it's great to be part of a hub and sell your produce through the hub. But one thing that we've seen, and that has been a real amazing thing to watch, and something that we work quite closely with Zero Waste Scotland, who again works from everything from waste of food packaging to actual food waste. And what's been amazing is that we have all this amazing produce that comes in on the Friday, we're checking the stock, and then by Saturday midday, 1 o'clock, all of that stock, all of that amazing produce has been super fresh and has gone to the customers in like record speed times. So actually the time from it being harvested and created and produced is much shorter than a supermarket would be. And then there's no waste. When I leave the market hall on a Saturday afternoon, the place is virtually empty with no stock left there. And that's been really great, because when traders come to the market weekends, it's a real guessing game. You know, they're sort of thinking, how many people are going to come through the door today? How much are they going to buy? So they bring enough stock to what they think. Sometimes they sell out really fast, and sometimes there is waste. So that's been something that we've really been pushing, is this is really helping traders forecast what they need to produce and what they need to harvest and create and make. And then they've not got any waste at the end of the day. So if that's something that people, it's just my little spiel that I do to traders when I'm convincing them to take part.
And while we're talking about ideas, about promoting these online food hubs, that freshness is a perfect example. Also, zero waste. And one of the things that we noticed was that this massive peak in online sales during lockdown, and then very quickly when the supermarkets reopened and the supermarkets started doing their big promotions to get people back into the supermarkets, the online sales did drop very fast. And as Leanne was saying, that was the Woodlea experience, and many shop fronts have seen that their traditional customers stuck with them, but the people who came during the lockdown as an emergency measure were not necessarily very committed customers. So one of the things we've been doing as part of the Open Food Network is, again, working together with all of the shop fronts to bring together as much experience as possible, and to do some joint learning around marketing and around maintaining commitment and maintaining customer bases. We've produced a little video linked to Better Food Traders, which is all about commitment and encouraging, and this is aimed at shoppers and encouraging them to commit to support their local businesses, their local producers, farmers and growers, as well as their local food hubs, so that these businesses are still there next time they need them, and that we don't only use these things when it's an emergency. But the Open Food Network runs a weekly marketing webinar on a Wednesday afternoon, where people using the Open Food Network can drop in. Anyone, in fact, can drop in. They're public sessions to share ideas about how to use social media, how to use mailing lists, emails, that sort of thing, to promote products, to promote producers, to sell the selling points of local produce. Unless there's any more questions, I wanted to do a quick pitch for open source. So there are many platforms out there, many online platforms. Open Food Network's been running since 2012. It was developed initially in Australia and has now spread across the world. But it's one of the few that's open source. By open source, I mean that nobody owns it. It is collectively owned. It is a commonwealth. The other option is proprietary software, and proprietary software is software that's been developed by an individual or by a company, and it's then owned by that company. They own the software. They decide how it develops, how it improves. They decide how much it costs to use that software, and they can then sell that software platform, and other people can buy it and change it and decide how it's sold. So we are very proud of the fact that the Open Food Network is collectively owned, and that Leanne and Rosie and everyone else who's using it are collectively deciding how it will improve. They're collectively contributing to improving it and coming up with ideas about how it will grow. And that if the community interest company that's set up in the UK to host this, if that company was to stop trading for whatever reason, the software would still be there. The software will always be there and will always be available for people to use to develop their food systems. So another question from Peter. I really like the hub principle. That's something that works. Farmers market, really useful. So Peter, do you want to say a bit more about that? About having to try again? What was your previous experience? Maybe unmute and tell us.
I run a farmers market in Hexham in Northumberland, and when we had our lockdown, we closed because I couldn't really see how we would continue to go on, and we ended up with an order and collect system with a limited number of producers, 8 in the end, and about 70 customers. But the resources that I have, both people resources and physical building resources, were just not enough to be able to do the order picking and all of that setup. But in the longer term, farmers markets as we know them, I don't think are going to survive, because although it's a social experience, it's also a product, and as far as I can see, and I've done it for 11 years, it's one of those things where you come to a peak and there's a very long tail, and if you're good at doing your job, you can make the tail longer, but it does go down and down. And having an online way of having direct contact between producers and consumers is a really important element of a more sustainable food network and a food system. So I do want to make this happen, but it's one of those things where finding your way through how to make it happen is a real challenge.
It is. Rosie, you look like you're going to say something. Do you want to go first?
It was on the farmers markets. Obviously, farmers markets across the UK have struggled for several years, and in Fife we were seeing a bit of a change where the Fife farmers markets were really coming into their own and coming back to life. We're not part of a Fife farmers market, we're just sort of in Fife and are a farmers market, if that makes sense. So I think you're right. I think unfortunately they are going to dip down a bit. I don't think they're going to completely end. I think the success of Bowhouse was that we turned them into something more than a market weekend, so more than just a farmer's market. So it wasn't just our keen beans that come on a Saturday morning, they whiz around the traders hall, they know the produce they want and they go. We tried to create a lingering period. So, you know, back when we could, we had live music, we had a street food area so people could have lunch, we've got sitting area, we've got kids activities, we have a charity that comes and they bring loads of people. We bring animals down from the farm, we've had cows, we've had alpacas, pigs, you know, we try and make it as interactive as possible with workshops, demos, cooking activities, anything where kids are getting hands-on, they're tasting things, they're trying things. I'm talking pre-COVID right now, but all these things were to get people back to food and get people back to this amazing produce that we have here and show them the benefits of it. But the hook was really the day out. And then the sort of the changing of those customers from being just a day out on their holiday to the East Nook to saying, hey, I bought a bag of that flour from Scotland Bread and I made a loaf of bread. It was amazing. And then they are customers. They are going to keep shopping from our producers. So it's a real tricky one when you don't have space. We have the luxury of a big shed, and we're in a location, people know where we are, and we try and make it as a routine as possible. So our market weekends are always on the second weekend of each month, so we've got that routine. I mean, we get things wrong all the time. We've seen a dip in customers depending on the time of year. Our area of Fife is very holiday driven. So during the winter months, we don't host a market in January, February. One, because nobody's in the East Nook and no one wants to eat food in January and February. It's really not easy. And I think the only thing we've seen really successful is turning it into more than a market and turning it into a real experience, which I don't like the word food experience because I think it's overused, but that kind of thing, if you know what I mean, in disguise.
Perfect. And Peter, I'm really happy, Peter, to help you with the setup of an online farmers market. If you wanted to do that, we could do a screen share a bit like this, where I can see your screen. We could set up a couple of your producers online. We could set up payment methods, and we could support you in the process. So actually having a go at it, running it as a trial. A bit like Leanne said, you know, that you can run it alongside whatever you're doing until it takes off. But there are people all over the country using the Open Food Network as an online addition to a face-to-face traditional farmers market. And I'm really happy to run through that with you. We've got one more question, and we're running very close to time. It's a question from Jossie about subscriptions. And yes, there is a subscription system within the Open Food Network. I don't think either Leanne or Rosie are using it at the moment, but it does allow a customer to have exactly the same order every week without having to log on. It's used a lot by veg box schemes who are using the Open Food Network, and they obviously have shoppers who have exactly the same box every week. And you can use the Open Food Network in that way, and you can also use it in a way that would say to a shopper, if you want us to set you up to get a loaf of bread and a pint of milk and a packet of bacon and a veg box every week, all of those products will be added to your basket. And the way that works is that once the subscription is set up, when the order cycle opens, the order cycle is the period during which the shopper places the order for delivery or collection at a particular time. But when that order cycle opens, the shopper gets an email saying we've created your automatic order. It's now in your basket. You have until this date to change it. If you don't want it or you want to add to it, you need to do that, make those changes before this date, which is when the order cycle closes. And if you don't make any changes, then when the order cycle closes, we take payment and it will be delivered to you, or it will come to the pickup point. So yes, there is a subscription system in there, and as you say in your message there, it could be offered on a discount basis, that the regular subscribers get a better price for their order, because they're committing to support the business in the long term. So Peter, do please email me, and we can talk about setting that up. My email address I'll put in the chat is Nick, N for November, ICK @openfoodnetwork.org.uk. I'll put it in the chat. But I'm going to hand back to Rachel, and also I want to check with Rosie or Leanne if they want to make any closing comments, but I'll hand back to Rachel to check if there's anything we need to do before we close.
No, thank you very much. There's lots of comments in the chat from everyone thanking you as well for a really interesting session, so that's great. But yeah, thanks for your contribution and thanks for the questions. And yeah, I think once everyone leaves, we can close, and then we'll save the video so other people can obviously follow this up if they've not managed to make it to the session. Yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you everybody. I want to say a big thanks to Leanne and to Rosie for telling their story. Really, really appreciate you, and not only telling your story, but doing the amazing work that you're doing. You know, this whole thing is here because we need to support farmers and growers to produce the amazing food. And I think farmers and growers have been under acknowledged for years and years and years, and that's one of the things COVID has done, is to make us appreciate the people who not just grow our food but then get the food to the people who need it. So you're our heroes. Thank you very much.
And thank you Nick for asking us again, and yeah, for helping us along the way.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone. That was really good, Nick. I'm just gonna, before I shut the room, I'm just gonna clear my laptop because I actually don't think I've got enough memory to save it.
Okay, fine.
But Leanne, you got it as well.